Okay, just as a preface, this is a special meeting of the Grants to Higher Education Committee of the Board of Architectural and Engineering Examiners being conducted by teleconference. It's a physical core, I'm sorry, the physical location is room 1B of the Davy Crockett Tower in Nashville, and notice of this meeting was posted on the board's website on, I think, June 21st of 2016. All right, ready for a roll call? Susan Ballard,
Here.
Philip Lynn,
Yeah.
Bill Lockwood,
Here.
Frank Wagster,
Here.
Susan Maynor.
Here.
You have a quorum,
All right.
and
Are
I
you
think
ready for
you,
me to read my part?
yes.
Okay. The Grants to Higher Education Committee of the Tennessee Board of Architectural and Engineering Examiners held a meeting via telephone on Tuesday, June 28th, the year 2016, beginning at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, due to the impossibility of having a quorum of committee members physically present and in the immediate need to address standard committee business, including setting the parameters for awarding grants to educational institutions for the projects of the 2016-2017 fiscal year. The matters to be considered by the committee at this meeting require timely action by the committee so that the committee may present its decisions to the board at the next board meeting. Further, physical presence by a quorum of the committee members is not practical within the period of time requiring action, and participation by a quorum of the committee members by electronic or other means of communication is necessary.
Need a motion to approve the statement of necessity?
Move.
Oh, it has to be a roll call vote also, by the way. So Mr. Lockwood moved?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second it. This is Frank.
I'll do a roll call. Susan Ballard,
Aye.
Philip Lynn,
Yeah.
Bill Lockwood,
Yes.
Frank Wagster,
Yes.
Susan Maynor.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Well, I wanted to thank everyone for giving their time this afternoon. We're going to keep this as concise as possible. And I wanted to thank everyone that sent me a grant application to review, and Susan Maynard's Resources, who has Grant who writes grants and had lots of opportunities to help us with this. So anyway, what I'd like for us to do is take the attachment 1, which is guidelines for administering block grants to Tennessee institutions of higher education, which is the format that we send the colleges for our grant applications. And if you will start looking at the areas in red, those are the ones that I have modified to hopefully kind of set the parameters of what we're wanting to accomplish. And then this is just a suggestion. It's a beginning. It's not written in stone. It's something for us to start discussing. So if everyone is ready, then we'll start with the area that says submission of proposals, special grant funding program. Okay, so the intent of the special grant funding program is for students of architecture, engineering, landscape architecture, and interior design to collaborate on a special project. The architecture programs in Memphis and Knoxville have agreed to collaborate with other colleges that do not have an architecture program to allow the other engineering and interior design programs to create teams for this grant. Project submittals are required to have 3 disciplines on each team in any combination of architecture, engineering, landscape architecture, and interior design. Applicants must explain how the percentage of each discipline will participate in this project. All project submittals will be anonymous with a code to mark each submitted page for judging. All submittals will be sent to our legal counsel, Ben Glover, for tagging of each code number. The application must have all necessary identifying information, which will be secured by our legal counsel. The committee will not see the application page, only the coded submittal information. So, having looked at that and heard what I've read, are there suggestions and changes that you all would like to see? I see one on the
This is
board.
this is Ben Glover.
Hi, Ben.
It's actually not necessary to send this to me. John's got plenty of staff that can collect these things and keep them secure and make them anonymous for your review.
Okay.
Give them to me will not protect them in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, then we'll put John's name on there.
But, hey, this is John. I would just recommend just put, sent to the board's executive director, since
Okay, all right.
a different person could be in my position in the future.
No, they
Now,
won't.
John, you're not
And-
leaving, but
No, no, I'm just saying at some
John,
point
you
I
thinking
will
about
leave.
Retirement, too early.
And that's consistent with wording.
I'm done on the board.
Hey,
Okay, so
question,
everywhere, go ahead.
I know we also mentioned Memphis and Knoxville have agreed to collaborate. What happens if you have out of school they want to do it?
Well, if they want to have an architect on their team, Memphis and Knoxville have agreed to allow their students to collaborate. If they don't want an architect on their team and they have the other three disciplines, then they don't have to worry about Memphis or Knoxville.
well, they would have to have Knoxville for landscape architecture.
Well, yes, you are correct, Bill. So,
Thank you.
did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Other changes?
Susan?
Yes.
This is John again. Just wanted to mention, I think Robert Campbell, in some of his feedback, he had suggested that interdisciplinary projects among different disciplines of engineering perhaps should be considered as well. Like if a school wants their electrical and mechanical and civil departments to work together on a project, that might be considered interdisciplinary as well. Would that be covered by this as written, or would you even want to go in that direction with this?
Well, my concern is if we, then we're not going to get the architecture students to work with the engineering students. And I would like to hear other opinions on the committee as to what you all think. You know, I will bow to the majority on this, but the hopes were to get the architects and the engineers to work together as students, particularly for the schools that don't have architecture programs. And this is the opportunity for them to do that. I'm not disagreeing with what Robert's saying, and I appreciated his input on it. So,
Madam Chair, this Philip, would you entertain maybe perhaps, I want to be inclusive but yet not be obvious enough to say that we as a board the grant committee can consider a case by case basis. For instance, if you come before the board the year when they don't have architectures and engineers and landscape project combined together, and we have a very good interdiscipline project, I think the grant committee should be given the authority to consider that as a special case.
yeah, I think that's a good idea, Philip.
Susan,
Frank?
this is Frank.
Yeah, what's your thought?
I don't think from what John was saying, I don't think anything precludes having more than three disciplines. So you could have mechanical, electrical, and structural engineers and architects and interior designer. You could have several different. I don't think we're trying to preclude different engineering disciplines. Now, I think
we
it's
let
required to have a
engineering
minimum of three disciplines.
Right.
Yeah, I
We
think,
put engineering as a generic cover-all name. We didn't say specifics. So if they wanted to have 4 or 5 engineering disciplines working with an architecture student, and landscape architecture and interior design, I would welcome that. I wouldn't think it would need to be just one type of engineering.
Right.
And I think based on what I'm hearing, we need to clarify it can be multiple disciplines of engineering.
Sure.
Is that the plan of the board? Hey, Susan.
Hey, should we also put on there, instead of saying project submittals are required to have 3 disciplines, a minimum of 3 disciplines? said it was hard to have 3 disciplines, and another they could have more.
Okay, all right. Okay, got it. You know, we probably need to offer a window of questions from folks and give them a week or two to ask us questions about things and then send it all back out to everyone who wants to participate. And one other thing that I think we should consider doing is making our application part 1 and let them send that in, and then part 2 when they finish the rest of their information to send to us, so we know how many people are wanting to participate. John, since you all are going to be managing the paper, how do you feel about that?
Go over that again. We would have
Okay.
it like a two-step process.
Yes. And one being an application to say, yes, we're interested. We would assign them the code number, and then when they submit their project, that code number would be on a part of the page, so we know that all goes together. But at least we would know how many people are interested, and then give them an opportunity to ask questions, so we know how many people need to get that information back. So, does that make sense?
We could definitely do it that way.
Okay. Does anybody have a different way of thinking on that one?
No, it's good.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right then. All right. So if there's no other comments on these first 2 paragraphs, let's move on to the part that I tried to make up because I needed more input. So the grant will be available for 2 recipients in the amount of $20,000 each. Teams can be formed from multiple colleges with a common program goal. And I made it 2 different recipients because we had 2 architecture programs, and I wanted to encourage them to participate. Of the grants that I reviewed that everyone had sent me, our grant is huge compared to most of them. And so I felt like if we divided it in 2 parts, then we could get maybe a good diversity in what we are receiving and make people want to participate. And I'm certainly open to other opinions on this one, so let's talk about that one now. Anybody have a thought?
I think it's a good approach.
Okay.
Doing the 2 may get 2 different types of projects and 2 different, levels of participation from different groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was thinking, at our last meeting, there was a professor there from,
Lipscomb University.
Yeah,
Lipscomb. And, he was saying what he was thinking they wanted to do was like $5,000 would be plenty, I think I heard him say.
Yeah.
And so
he said that was the average one was $5,000. So
yeah, so maybe this would make them think a little more out of the box.
Yeah.
Than just, the other thing that I think his was kind of a humanitarian type thing, wasn't it? To have some
yes, it was. They were going to build a bridge in Central America, and so after speaking or getting some feedback from some of our other board members, there was a consistent thought of keeping the award to be used within the state of Tennessee, since it is money that is used or collected, through the state, which is a little bit farther down. So, does anybody have any other thoughts about more than 1 or 2 or 3 recipients?
No, I like 2 $20,000.
Okay.
And the other thing that I was thinking is, and I'm going to throw this out and let everybody shoot me down, but I would like to see this more for research and development.
Okay.
In other words, a bridge in Central America or even in Tennessee is a good thing, but it's really not research. I mean, we know how to build bridges.
Right.
And a lot of the humanitarian type things are like Habitat for Humanity. You go out, the architectural students all go out and build a house or it may be a strange looking house, but it's still housing.
Mm-hmm.
And these things are necessary and everything, but they're really not research. or at least in my opinion, they're not.
Yeah.
And I'd like somebody to study something that you know is new, is creative and new. And I'm just throwing this out.
I was gonna say I think that was Frank talking in it. I like that, but I would think that the research and development. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say. I'm gonna ask a question. You can help me think through this. What I believe, okay, now I believe that we don't need to encourage a bunch of PhD that live in their little hole and never see the reality of the real world. I would think the whole purpose of this money in my mind, if you want to do research development, that's fine, but make sure that it is something of not just purely academic, but something that is is good for the public consumption. Like, for example, one of the project that we do in school that I have our students doing is called a Cornerstone Project. Like, for example, UT had what I call a mechanical engineering department looking at building a car that is run on ethanol. Then they have electrical engineers that actually wire. Then have computer engineering that actually program it. Mechanical engineers put the engine in there. And then in terms of crash test, they use a structural engineer to do that. So those are all undergraduate level. I certainly do not want to. When you say research and development, you always tendency to give our money towards PhD. I have nothing against the PhD. Please do not take that wrongly. I just think, by and large, our industry is run by people who are with an undergraduate degree. I didn't go to work here because I had my PhD. I go to work here because I have a bachelor degree. So if we want to put that as a score, like as later on we say we want to give, if it's R&D and innovative, we might give them a little bit more, a few more extra points in their scoring as we judge the paper.
Well, you know, I was kind of thinking like, let's say from an interior standpoint, if you went and took a school and designed 2 classrooms and one of them was decorated, you know, different colors, different lighting, different sound abilities in one room, you have daylighting in the next room, and you in some way evaluate whether this affects the learning ability, you know, the learning that goes on in the classroom. I'm thinking about that type thing where you're actually doing research to see what the effects, you know, on people are for something like that. It could be valuable to the Tennessee school systems.
Well, I think the suggested program topics as listed has that research and development, but I think you have the other items that may be as effective for this grant. That once the committee starts reviewing the applications, y'all can make a decision and point which ones are more appropriate.
And if it's all right with you all, let's start looking at these suggested topics because some you all may not feel apply. You all have other suggestions of what we're going to add to the list. And so this is just where I started, and one being research and development, because Frank and I had talked about that previously. Based on the professor from Lipscomb, the community service need, energy conservation and zero carbon output, historic preservation, like a low-income housing for human resources and poverty, educational needs for the community, recreational needs in the community, other projects, you know. And this is just, you know, me thinking of what could we suggest. It doesn't mean that these are things that, you know, have to be done. If you all have other ideas you want to add to the list, we've got to give them some direction, in my opinion, to say, you know, go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, another thought that I had, and it, you know, and I like research and development, but that's not an agenda of mine. But I think it would help everyone if we were real specific on what we want this to be, and then they're competing against each other. Because we're liable to get somebody wanting to do research and development and somebody wanting to do low-income housing. And how do you evaluate those other than you want to help the poor, you know, but, you know, and I'm being facetious, but I think giving them so many choices, and then even item 8 says anything else you come up with.
Right. Well, this is to start a conversation, so.
Yeah, I think our grant should be targeted to something, and maybe next year it's something else, and the next year something else. But
Okay.
I think it would help.
One thing I don't want to do is squash the creativity of the program. So trying to leave it open-ended, but at least to say, you know, something could be research, something could be energy conservation, that could fall under research. Historic preservation was just something I've put out there because anytime we can reuse a building, you could possibly reuse it for low-income housing, you know. There's been a recent, well, it's not recent, there was a young man that shielded 2 other girls from a random drive-by shooting, Xavier and Dodson here in Knoxville. They are trying to raise money to make a park and a recreational facility for children in his community so they have a safe place to go. You know, to me, that would be something that the students, the engineers, interior designers, landscape could all work on a project, something like that help a community need, have, you know, a project that they could work on. It's a real life project. So, you know, that I don't want to limit it to just what we think. I want to make it available to them to come up with their own concept, but have at least some parameters as to what we're expecting the level of work. Does that make sense?
Hey, Susan, I think you just hit exactly what we're here for. If any project that's related to public health and health, safety, and welfare of the public would be given high consideration.
Okay.
If you just say about something about building a safe place, like historic preservation, it could be a place where it's for the welfare of the public in the sense that we educate how people live in the past. Mm-hmm. And how, you know, and then when I'm thinking of recreation needs the community, it's just kind of exactly what you just said about these people raising money.
Yeah. And this one just happened to be on the news recently, and I was able to, you know, add it to the list. So anyway, I think I had mentioned to you all when I brought the UT 50th anniversary, they had a little brief article about something that the students did, the engineering students, the architecture students, interior design, actually included nursing as well, and they created a water kiosk to provide clean water to thousands of families, and this is in Clay County, Kentucky. They actually won a 3-year, $1.5 million grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services for funding of this project because the students took action and initiated it, and this goes all the way back to 2014, to make it an opportunity for them to not only design something but to help people. And so it was actually printed in our paper June 17th that they got a national award. They were recognized by Cornell University, the University of Missouri, New Mexico State University, and the University of Nebraska at Omaha for their work on that one little project. So anyway, I want the kids to be inspired to think bigger and broader, and maybe that's asking too much for the amount of money and time that we're asking them to do this in, but that's just my big picture of what I want us to accomplish. So anyway, I want us to make sure we're spending on our time here. Why don't we all mull over this list a little bit and tweak it? It doesn't have to be this many items. We might want to make it 3 and then have some subtopics underneath it that will kind of narrow it down. So anyway, the intent for the grant funding is to be used for projects. So within the state of Tennessee, the project time frame is 18 months from the receipt of funds. The award winners will make a presentation to the board at the end of the project. John, do you think that time frame is a reasonable time frame?
I think so. Now, of course, the grant funds will have to be expended within the fiscal year in which they were authorized, but the project doesn't have to be complete within that time frame. So we could certainly allow them the 18 months from receipt of funds to build the project or whatever is involved in bringing it to completion and doing a report.
Okay, all right. Then moving on to the next page, I started a list for the point system for us to judge, and again, just starting a conversation. I've got collaboration of 3 more disciplines at a certain percentage of points, presentation of the project concept that's in writing, impact on the community, and then I left a couple other lines for suggestions that we could add to this list. Or we can only have 3, but I would rather not have 3.
Susan?
Yes.
This is John. Just from the historical perspective, the grants program was initiated primarily to support education in the
Right.
state because students were using outdated equipment in their labs, so that was the original intent of it. So I think in light of the historical purpose of the grants program, it would be good to include the educational value to the students of the
Okay,
project,
that's
since
good.
that's really the
All right.
primary, I would think based on the history of the program, that's really the primary purpose of this, is to
Okay, good.
ensure that the students have exposure to these other disciplines so that when they go out into the real world, they've already got some of that experience under their belt, maybe engineers working with architects, vice versa.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion, John. Thank you. That goes
Susan,
back to
one
our
other
purpose.
suggestion I have is that when we award a project, we need to ask ourselves a question: is it transferable? Meaning, something that the concept can be transferred in the real world. Like when you build a bridge, it's transferable because people can use it.
Okay.
When the bridge collapses again, people can come and rebuild it.
Okay. All right. All right. Got it. All right. Any other thoughts on a point system?
What about another thought about the co-funding factor? If we give them 20,000 and the school help match 20, I think they ought to be given some kind of credit for that.
Okay.
Matching funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We didn't mention that earlier, so we would need to go back and put that as part of the criteria if they want to do that. So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure it's a requirement, but I think they would get more added points if it was, matching.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We'll call that bonus points. How's that?
Right.
Very
Hey,
good.
Madam Chair, I do need to go to my next
Okay.
meeting.
All right, thank you,
Going on. I will talk to you, okay? Thank you, bye-bye.
Okay, we'll send you notes. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, moving on to the next paragraph. I put the September 15th date the same as what we have for other grant funding, so it's all turned in at the same time. And then under review of proposals, instead of February, I've got the October meeting that we want to finalize and make the award because our deans will be there anyway. And I think that would be a good opportunity to make that presentation. And I think that's all on this document. Is there any thoughts on those 2 dates, John? Is that workable?
Well, one suggestion I had for this coming fiscal year, since we still obviously will need to do some tweaking on this, and it'll have to be presented to the full board in August.
Right.
I'm not sure about the time frame for it, if the schools are going to have adequate time, but maybe we could have them submit it in time for their proposals in time for the December meeting.
Okay.
Potentially, and then the board could approve. So now, normally we do approve them at the October meeting, but maybe we could move it to December potentially to approve the proposals, to distribute the funds. And that's going to give us a short time frame for the contracts, because we'll have to expend the funds by June 30th of next year. So we're only going to have about 6 months to get the contracts routed and approved and the money distributed. But I don't anticipate that being a big problem. As long as we
Okay.
can get the money distributed by December, we can start the contracts in December, and I feel confident with the staff that we have working on contracts in the department now that we could get them approved quickly so
Okay.
the schools can get their money.
Okay. So if we have them turn in their proposals in October at our planning retreat, and then we make awards in December, Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
All right then. I believe that is all on that document. So let's flip over quickly to,
Susan,
yes.
this is John again real quick. Would it need to be by October, you think, or could it be later than that? If say we have a grants committee meeting in December to discuss the distribution, could it be maybe for the December meeting? Or, I mean, obviously the deadline would need to be probably in November, so y'all would have time to review them in advance of the meeting. I'm thinking just for this year,
I
but
have no idea how many people that want to submit this, so that's why. I think the longer we give them, the later people will work on it, so to speak. So if we give them, we give them till October 30th. How's that? And that would give us the month of November to review them, because we typically have our board meeting first week of December, correct?
that's right after Thanksgiving, yeah.
So that gives us 30 days to look at them, minus Thanksgiving weekend. So is that all right?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Well, let me ask you this, John. If we wait till December to approve a grant to someone, when does that money have to be expended by?
By June 30th,
So they've really got half a year.
right.
Yeah.
And it'll take time, obviously, to draft the contracts, get those approved.
Yeah.
But I think we could do that, optimistically, within a couple of months.
It's not like the 17 we normally do.
Yeah, the other question that I have is, how is that money administered? In other words, once they have been awarded the grant, is money dumped into a bank account for them, or do they have to expend the money and get paid back, or how does that work?
It's paid as a lump sum amount into whatever account they designate. So, but technically, they would need to initiate their purchases by the end of the fiscal year. That's the wording that we've used in the contracts, so.
And Frank, we have a requirement for them to give us a budget of what they feel like they are going to need.
Yeah.
So
That's part of the grant, isn't it? The budget?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what, Susan?
In the budget, their budget's part of their grant?
Part of the grant
Yes.
application.
Application, yeah, I'm sorry, part of the grant application?
Yes, they're supposed to present a budget. So.
Well,
Okay.
I know the other thing, and again, this is state money we're spending.
Right.
I know. Well, I am on a state board that delivers grant money in low income loans, and at least historically, one of the fallbacks of that particular group was they did not have a lot of follow up or oversight over what was actually accomplished. In other words, at some point, if I'm a state legislator, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, hey, we gave these guys $20,000, and where's the, other than a report at the end of the project, what kind of oversight have you had on this? And I kind of I'm a Rotary member, and I've worked with them on grants and so forth several times, and they're, even Rotary is real particular on, where did you spend the money? What did you accomplish by spending it, and on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hadn't. I know it's probably here, and I just hadn't seen it. But
yeah,
what kind of follow up do we have on? Are we proposing to do on this, or requiring them to provide for us?
Frank, in my personal notes where I was trying to formulate this stuff, I had over an 18-month period of 6 months, 12 months, and then a final report. That did not get included because I was following a different format. But I don't know, John, can we require them to give us a 6-month update?
Oh, sure, we can add that to the contract language for
Okay.
for the grants, right? And what we do now for the equipment purchases, they have to submit their invoices, their receipts to verify, that they purchased the equipment they said they were going to purchase. They submit an inventory control report for items over a certain value. So that's how we document purchases currently.
Okay.
And that at least could be used in part, I think, for the special projects as well. They could follow the same process.
Okay. That sounds like a good one. All right, we've got 15 minutes left, so let's try to run through this second document. This was actually one of the grants that the ASTM had issued to the students. So I just kind of changed some of the wording, and everywhere we have Ben's name, we'll just say executive director. I don't think we need the first paragraph because these are not reports that we want. So if we kind of run through this quickly, item 1 will change to executive director, and then we'll email the information to the executive director. And then we will confirm with them within 5 days that we've received their application. And then there are several areas that, by accepting the grant, you're agreeing to submit an application paper report presentation to the A&E board within the deadlines below. And my hopes are that at the end of the time period, and I need to keep changing these months since we've redone things, that they will give us a presentation of their project, and we'll limit it to, a certain amount of time, because it will be at the board meeting, or it could be at the retreat, depending on how it falls. But moving on to page 2, this is just items that they will fill in, and I want to talk to you all about number 4, because this was what was on the ASTM grant application, was to have the project leader social security number. And John, I don't know that we need that, but is there another number that we could request, or is there any need for this?
I don't see a need for it. And
Okay.
Ben?
I didn't think so either, because it's going to a school account, not a person.
Right.
And you actually have right next to it 5, you got the faculty advisor or mentor, so you got contact information there.
Right.
I mean,
So
you still would have somebody
held
from
accountable.
the school, from the institutions.
Whoever is going to take on, this special project, we need their information. And then number 6 is listing the institutions that are participating on this one. And if we move on to number 7, I wanted to make sure that we had basic information in everyone's, submittal. Project title, scope, and goal, description or plan of how the project will proceed from beginning to end, listing of disciplines involved in the project and percentage of work in each category, estimated budget for project. There you go, Frank. And then the last one, impact on the community. And I think students, based on what Philip said, would be another one we could add to that. So then I added the presentation must be provided for critique to your faculty member or advisor, and then submitted to the A&E board after recommended changes, because we don't necessarily want to hear stuff that we don't need to. Final presentation should be a maximum of 10 pages or 5,000 words or 1 hour. And then we would like for the faculty mentor to do an evaluation and assessment. So I know this is a lot of information in 1 hour, but we had to start somewhere. So this is what I've kind of put together for us to critique some more. If everyone can make some suggestions, send them to John, and then John can send them back out to the committee. Would 2 weeks be enough time to get comments back?
I think so.
Okay. Frank, what about you?
Yeah.
Bill gets a go pass.
That's right. I'm done.
He's done in 3 days. So anyway, poor Blair, he doesn't know he's on the committee yet, does he?
No.
So, anyway.
Actually, what you ought to do is send this to him so he can be prepared when he starts his meeting, right?
Who's your replacement, Bill?
Blair Parker out of Memphis.
Oh, yeah, I know Blair. Yeah.
So anyway, that's what I have for today. I want to get it, back on to our regular work. Are there any other outstanding comments or thoughts that anybody would like to bring up?
Susan, this is John. So I think the intent is we'll get some comments back for y'all to mull over and then schedule another committee meeting at the August meeting prior to the August board meeting.
Yeah.
And then,
Can we have at least an hour at the August meeting?
yeah, sure, we can do that. We can always maybe schedule it like the afternoon before or something, potentially. And then at the August meeting, the board could vote to adopt your proposal,
Okay,
and then we can move forward from there. Does that sound good?
sounds good. Sounds good to me. I
But
really
Susan,
would like for
I
us to
want
have
to
it-
compliment you on getting this together.
thank you,
Very
Ben.
great
Right.
job.
I always feel like I need to do better, but thank you very much. So anyway, I want this to be a success. I know you all know this is my passion, is to get the students as much as they can to learn from, and I think giving them new experiences is always an opportunity for them to stretch their boundaries. And so, anything that you all hear or see or think of that we need to cover ourselves on this, because I know we're breaking new ground, I would appreciate input on. And John, I appreciate your time. Ben, if you're still there, thank you for coming. And Wanda, are you still there?
Oh, she's gone.
Okay, all right. Well, unless there's any other comments, do I hear a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Can we get a second?
All right.
And a
Roll
roll call
call.
vote?
Roll call, John?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Susan Ballard,
Ah,
Philip Lim, Bill Lockwood,
Yes.
Frank Wagster,
Yes.
Susan Maynard.
Yes.
The motion passes. You are
Now,
adjourned.
what if we didn't have a quorum to end the meeting?
Stay here for the rest of
We
your
have
life.
to stay here all day long.
Yeah.
All right.
all right, everyone. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
good
care.
board. All right, bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All right, here we go.